We all like to think we're in the driver's seat of our own lives, right? That we make these rational, well-thought-out choices every day. But what if I told you that most of the time, something else is actually steering? It turns out there are all these hidden forces constantly shaping our decisions, often without us even noticing. Get this, 95%. Yeah, you heard that right. According to researchers, a whopping 95% of our daily decisions are driven by our subconscious. That means for the vast majority of our day, we are just running on autopilot. Which, brings up a pretty big question, doesn't it? If you aren't consciously making most of your choices, then who is? Well, the answer lies in understanding that powerful, hidden part of our brain that's running the show. I mean, think about it. Have you ever felt totally overwhelmed by a big decision? That feeling of a quarter-life crisis where every choice about your career or your money or relationships just feels messy and confusing? Maybe even a little irrational? That's your autopilot brain wrestling with the controls. So, how do we get a handle on this mysterious force? Well, it turns out there's kind of like a hidden user manual for our minds. It's a whole field of study that lets us peek behind the curtain of our choices, and it's called behavioral economics. So what is it exactly? At its core, behavioral economics studies why we do what we do, not just what we do. It basically accepts the fact that we're emotional, biased people, and uses psychology to predict our often, let's say, illogical behavior. And these psychological principles, they are put into action every single day, especially by marketers. It usually follows this simple three-step playbook. First, a company makes a claim. Then, they give you a warrant. That's the psychological hook that makes you believe the claim. And the impact? You make a choice. And you often don't even realize the psychology that just played out. Okay, so let's look at one of the most powerful tools in that toolkit, the fear of missing out. You know it as FOMO. This thing taps right into a super deep-seated bias that makes us absolutely terrified of losing something. This is all explained by something called loss aversion theory, and it's wild. It basically says that the psychological pain of losing 10 pounds is almost twice as powerful as the pleasure you'd feel from finding 10 pounds. Our brains are just hardwired to avoid a loss at all costs. And once you see this, you can't unsee it. Marketers use this fear of loss constantly. Think about those frantic last-minute bidding wars on eBay, or Amazon's order within the next 2 hours timer for next-day shipping. Even the yearly madness for the pumpkin spice latte at Starbucks. They all create urgency by making you feel like you're about to lose out. Okay, another massive force at play is our basic herd mentality. The official term is social proof, and it's our natural tendency to just assume that if a ton of other people are doing something, well, it must be the right thing to do. And this isn't just a vague feeling, it has a real measurable impact. A staggering 73% of business buyers say they've used case studies, which are really just a formal kind of social proof, to make a big purchasing decision. You see this literally everywhere. From the online reviews that 81% of us trust, to Airbnb showing you how many hundreds of people have wishlisted that cool cabin. Or when Expedia tells you 20 people are looking at this hotel right now. Even governments use it. The UK famously encouraged more people to become organ donors just by saying that most people already approve of it. All right, next up is the art of the frame. This one is really subtle. It's all about changing your choice by simply changing how the options are presented to you. The products don't change, but your perception of them totally does. A classic example of framing is something called the decoy effect. This is where a company will cleverly introduce a third, kind of crummy option for the sole purpose of making one of their other options look like an absolutely fantastic deal by comparison. Okay, let's look at a real-world example from Shutterstock's pricing. That first, cheaper option, it's actually a decoy. Nobody's really supposed to buy it. At $11 an image, its only job is to make that pre-selected pack next to it, at only $9.20 an image, seem like a much smarter, much better value choice. And just like that, they steer you right where they want you to go. But here's the really fascinating part. These biases aren't just modern marketing tricks or bugs in our mental software. Evolutionary psychologists argue that they're ancient, hardwired instincts. Back in the day, choosing the popular option or avoiding a loss could literally be the difference between life and death. They were essential tools for navigating our social worlds and, yeah, even attracting mates. So, if these urges are so baked into our DNA, what does that mean for the people who know how to use them? I mean, understanding these forces comes with a pretty heavy responsibility, and it definitely raises some serious ethical questions. Let's just ask the question straight up. Is all of this just manipulation? Are we just being tricked into making choices we wouldn't normally make? Well, it's complicated. It's not necessarily manipulation. When these principles are used ethically, they're called nudges. They're subtle cues that can help guide us toward better decisions, like saving for retirement or eating healthier, but without ever taking away our freedom to choose. The final call is still ours. But that line between a helpful nudge and outright manipulation can get really thin. The real danger lies in certainty, in believing that you know what is absolutely right for other people. The scientist Dr. Jacob Bronowski, standing at Auschwitz where members of his own family were killed, gave this chilling warning about that kind of absolute certainty, saying it turns a nation into a regiment of ghosts. Bronowski called this danger monstrous certainty. It's the arrogant belief that you know exactly what is right for everyone else. So whether we're talking about marketing or public policy, the most ethical path is one of tolerance, of trying to understand human behavior while always respecting an individual's freedom to choose for themselves. And that really leaves us with this final powerful thought from Dr. Bronowski. Understanding these hidden forces isn't about gaining control or finding absolute answers. It's about recognizing our responsibility and embracing what he called an unending adventure at the edge of uncertainty, the fascinating and deeply human world of our own minds.